Okay, here we go. Avi, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Good to have you here. And could you please introduce yourself to the ones that are listening or seeing us or watching us?
Yeah, my name's Avi Shugar. I'm originally from Eugene, Oregon. I was born and raised there, and I am now playing tennis for the University of Oregon in the same city that I grew up in. I'm transferring there this fall from the University of Alabama. I grew up playing tennis since I was like 5 years old. I have always been in love with the game and I was ranked #1 in Oregon for my year and in the top 3 in the Northwest and top 60 in the US. So tennis has always been a big part of my life.
Nice. Very nice. And it has taken you very far as well. So I'm going to start with your beginnings. How did you start to play tennis? You said you started with 5, but how and why? Why not soccer or something else? In the United States, you have so many options.
Yeah, so I grew up playing tennis mainly because my dad played when he was in college and growing up as well. He's originally from South Florida and Miami Beach. And so tennis was just something that was provided for me as an option for a way to get activity. And I started at a young age, started playing a bunch of different sports actually. And it was my dad who just encouraged me to play tennis. And ultimately it came down to being my favorite sport.
And at what time did you kind of make the decision to play more tennis and other sports? Because as I understood, you did different sports. What were the other sports you did?
So I played mainly baseball and basketball growing up. Those were my 2 other sports that I was playing relatively seriously. Baseball definitely pretty seriously, but I would say that I solely focused on tennis in about the 7th grade. So when I was about 13 is when I stopped playing the other sports and decided to focus solely on tennis. And that was mainly because that's where I felt like I was best, and that's where I enjoyed it. That's what I enjoyed the most.
Okay, so 13, more or less, you started to become a specialist, a one sport specialist. Nice. And what was your parents' role in all this? Were they like the parents that pick you up from school and take you to the club and leave, or were they a little bit more hands-on, feeding balls, coaching? What was your experience there?
So growing up, my dad was very involved. He loves tennis till this day, and he's still playing every day pretty much with his group of guys. And so growing up, it was me and him mainly when it came to tennis, and he was very hands-on and liked to teach me things, and was never really my coach per se, but was always involved and invested and taking time out of his day to watch me play and give me feedback and travel to tournaments with me. So he was the one who really was hands-on and played a big part in my development, I really think. And my mom, on the other hand, doesn't really have any athletic background. She is not really in that space, but she appreciates tennis. She watches it. She comes to my matches and supports me, but isn't as much of a competitor per se.
Okay, understood. So this next question is I'll see how it fits in your life. So you said your father was not your coach. Does that mean that you had another coach? And if yes, how would you say was your learning style or teaching style? Were you more like focus on your technical aspects or strategical aspects of the game, or any specific mindset? What would you say was your growing up school or philosophy?
Yeah, I'd say my dad wasn't my coach, but he was always coaching me. I had coaches that I worked on with technical stuff from a pretty young age, and that's what I felt their job was. So I was very focused on technical things when it came to tennis and working with other coaches and stuff. And then I felt like as I grew up, as I started getting to a higher level, it became more strategic and learning how to play points and how to, approach certain matches mentally, how to, more about the inner game as opposed to the technical part. So that happened, I'd say later on, sort in my, like when I was a teenager, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a balance of everything.
So you went, if I understood correctly, you went from technical to tactic strategic. No, technical first, tactic strategic second, and you said you started to focus more on strategy later on. What age?
I'd say strategy came in around probably 14, like I'd say 12 to 14 is when we really started to like focus on strategy and stuff. And I remember my coach telling me my coach, his name's Paul Reber. At the time, he was the coach for the University of Oregon women's tennis team, but now he's become a club coach. And he really worked with me on the strategy of the game and developed me into somebody who was going to be successful in the 16s and 18s rather than the 12s and 14s. And that was something that was difficult for me to handle at the time, because that's something that because I want to see immediate results as opposed to long-term results, and especially at that young age, it was difficult. And so at that age, I started to really think about strategy and how I was going to be aggressive, how I want to move forward, and that's kind of what was instilled in me, and is still kind of how I play. So.
And Avi, how did you deal with that paradox of you're 12 and investing in a game that is gonna have success when you're 16, because you wanted to win as well, I assume, when you were 12, 13, and 14, and you were like investing for that. How did you deal with that? Because you said it was difficult for you, no?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult, and at that young age, like I just kind of had to trust the process and trust the coaches and mentors and people that I had in my life telling me that it's gonna work, and I eventually did it, and I saw results. I was able to I started competing in nationals. I think when I just turned 12 was my first real national tournament, and then in the 14s I started playing more U.S. national tournaments, and so I started to see some success, but it was still very difficult because I wanted to, be doing a lot better than I was, but it was the big picture mindset, and so yeah, it was really difficult losing some tough matches when I was focusing on something that I was working on or something that is going to benefit me in the long run, but just trying to keep a big picture was the most important thing.
So you were able to stay disciplined, so to say, and do what was going to be good for you in the future, instead of giving up of that desire to just win right now, maybe pushing the ball to the other side or doing something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's never really been an option in my mind just to like give up or let it go or just accept a loss. Like it's always like, okay, well, what am I going to do differently? How am I going to improve? What's there to learn from this? And I felt like because I didn't have a lot of success at a young age, that's just been instilled in me and something that I've focused on even to this day.
Okay. And what kept you motivated? Did you have any role models, or what was the motivation to go day in, day out, every day and hang in there and practice? What, because some kids, they come to a certain age and they give up, they quit, they do something else. What was your motivation?
My motivation really just comes from being the best player I can possibly be and not having any regrets when it's all said and done. And that's something that I focus on now, and I've focused on since I was a young player. And it's just like being willing to put time and energy into this sport and just trusting that the hard work is going to pay off, and when it does, it's so rewarding, and it's just so nice. And so like what motivates me is just, knowing that there's no ceiling, and that's something that has been difficult sometimes when I grew up in a small town in Oregon where there wasn't a lot of competition. I felt like there was a ceiling at one point, and that ended up leading to me moving to a different city, which was 2 hours away from my last couple of years of high school. And that's where I really saw a lot of growth in my game and started playing with the best kids in the state and the surrounding area. And so like those are some of the sacrifices, but that's what really motivates me, is just like continuing to push and not letting there be a ceiling, and just, letting the sky be the limit.
Great. So you move from your city to a city 2 hours away in order to have better chances to play tennis.
Yeah.
And were you alone there, or you moved with your whole family?
So my last 2 years of high school, when I was 17 and 18, I moved from Eugene, Oregon to Portland, Oregon, which is a couple hours away. And we had bought an apartment, like a condominium up in Portland. And so I was living there for the last 2 years of high school, and attending high school in Portland and training every day at the University of Portland with their head tennis coach, and training with the guys there and the best juniors from the surrounding area. And so my parents kind of took turns with who was living with me up there. Like during the week, my mom would live with me because she had an office up there, and my dad would come up on the weekends when I was either playing a tournament or playing practice matches or doing something of the sort. And I would also come back to Eugene. I would also drive home for a couple of days over the weekend and spend time with my family there too.
Okay, wow. So it was a big commitment from the whole family to create this structure. Do you have brothers or sisters?
Yeah, I have a younger sister.
Mm-hmm. And how was she involved in this picture? Did she play tennis as well, or?
No, she's not a tennis player. She runs cross country right now in high school, and she's also very dedicated in like the musical arts and in music. So that's her passion, and she's really talented in those areas. And so it was really difficult for both of us, like, being separated, I guess, for a substantial amount of time, especially during the school year. And I think it definitely took a toll on us, but we did our best to make it work, and came together ultimately at the end too.
Okay, awesome, nice. And in these years playing tennis, have you ever had like a moment of insight that you understood something that was very relevant for you? Do you remember having? Because I remember growing up, sometimes, you play, it's a day for some reason. Wow, you understand something that was just right in front of your eyes and you didn't see it before. Have you ever had an experience like that, or something that you say, okay, this will stay with me my whole life, this memory?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that has really like resonated with me recently, I think in the past year, is that it's all on me, and it is and my coach during high school, his name is Aaron Gross from the University of Portland, and he really instilled in me and all the other players that we chose tennis because it is an individual sport, and there's nobody who can tell us that we're not going to make it. And so, when he said that, that really resonated with me, because it kind of just, silences everybody who doesn't believe in me, or even sometimes myself who doesn't believe, or who, like, sometimes I'll doubt myself. But what I realized is that, like, I chose the sport because it's an individual sport, and it's something that I can take as far as I want, and I can continue to push myself and get the most out of my game, and until I lose passion for the game, which I don't know if that will ever happen. And so that's something that is, resonated with me, and I focus on all the time as well.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, it's like you have it in your hands. It's your responsibility to see how much you can learn and how far you can go.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice, nice. And if you look at where you're standing right now, what is your biggest challenge at this moment?
I'd say right now for me, it's translating my game from practice into competition, and that's something that is just I've been working on a lot with playing lots of matches and playing lots of tournaments because in my first couple of years at college, I didn't have a ton of matches and opportunities for me to like compete and perform at the next level, um, which was at the time college tennis. And so I've been, working very hard and a lot on playing matches how I'm practicing and treating every practice like it's a match. And so the mentality of having intentions and understanding what I want to do every single point and how I'm going to do it has been something that is a challenge for me, and it's been something I've been really focusing on as of recently. And so it's something that is that I see impacts my game a lot when I have a plan and when I have a blueprint on what I'm going to do day in and day out. I just see the benefits of that every day.
Okay, so translating from practice to tournament, this is a challenge, and you're trying to improve that through playing more matches and playing more tournaments. Yeah, so Florida has been a good place for that, no? A lot of matches, a lot of match playing here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And is there anything specific that you like the most about tennis? What makes you happy when you think of tennis? Is there anything there that you say, oh, I love this?
Well, I love competing. I love going out there and just really like fighting for every point and working on my game. And I honestly think that I've made so many friends and met so many people through tennis too. That's probably one of the the highlights, I guess, of growing up playing tennis is all of the interesting and cool people I've met and being able to share something with them and like over the years and have a common passion and push each other to get better has been something that is really something I've really enjoyed about tennis.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's true. Huh? Through tennis, we meet a lot of people on the other side of the net, no? Or in the bench when you're sitting and drinking. Yeah, there's some pretty fun conversation. I still enjoy that when I'm around you guys and I hear you talking and laughing. Very cool. Uh, do you have any like specific dream or goal that you say I would like to achieve this? And if yes, what would that be?
Well, it's always been a dream of mine to travel and play professional tournaments and be a pro and just like really experience that because growing up I didn't have a dream for tennis. It was just kind of like I want to be the best I possibly can. And then once I got to I don't know, maybe around 16, I was like, I really think I can keep pushing. And since then, it's been a dream of mine to travel around the world and um, play a lot of play futures, play challengers, and take it as far as I can because that's something this is something I've been working for my entire life, and why would I not take it to the highest level?
Okay, nice, very nice. Yeah, playing tournaments on tour is fun, and I think you have the skills to do it. I mean, you have the game. You're so far already, no? Playing college tennis at a good level, so it's pretty realistic. Um, the other, well, that's my opinion. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but just came the coach in me. Um, do you have any life lessons you have learned from tennis that you say, this is one of the things that tennis had given me so far?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of life lessons that I've learned through tennis. The most obvious that comes to mind is that like is just how to deal with adversity and how to deal with losing and failure, but also learning how to deal with success and learning how to learn from both. And just like I feel like in every single tennis match, there's adversity, whether you win 0-0 or you lose 0-0. Like there's always things that you can work on, and there's always things that are challenging, and I feel like approaching everything in life with that mindset that you can learn from every experience is something that's benefited me in a lot of different ways. And then I'd also say that like um, learning how to deal with failure is something that has been um, difficult and something that I've learned from tennis, and like learning how to not treat it as something that will set you back, but something that'll propel you forward, because it's something that is really difficult to deal with in the short term, but important to reflect on for the long term.
Hmm. I agree with you, and I'm curious also when you said um, dealing with success. What is the difficult part there?
I I think not being complacent is a challenge when being successful. Like especially after you have a great weekend and you win a tournament, it's getting out the next day and still going onto the court and working just as hard as you were doing the day before the tournament, and not being complacent with your hard work and with your success, because there's levels, and you may be successful at one level, but at the next level you're not going to be, and so you just got to keep pushing if your goal in the end, in the long run, is to you know is to be a professional or be what top 100 in ATP or whatever it is. You just got to keep working for it, and you can't just take success for what it is. You got to keep working. So that's always been my mindset.
Awesome, awesome, very balanced, very balanced. I love it. Avi, we're coming to the end of our conversation, and I have one more question, and if there is something I haven't asked and that you would like to add, just go ahead. But my last question is, if you could give little Avi an advice, what would it be? You're 19, 20 right now. How old are you right now?
20.
20. And you said you started with 5, 6, or maybe to the 10-year-old, 11-year-old Avi. What would you say to him with your experience?
I would just say keep working and don't be complacent, and just continue to trust the process. And um, I would say that that you just gotta find more ways to compete and find more tournaments to play and more people to play against. And I felt like there were times where I would have a couple months where I didn't have any big tournaments. There were lots of small tournaments where I lived. It was very difficult to find ITS to play or national events, and so I would say go chase those and get as much experience as you can, because it's really beneficial in the long run. The more high level tournaments that you play. And when I was 16, 17, I was not the highest ranked player. I was not having a great deal of success, and I ended up, putting in a lot of time and energy and training and down here in Florida. And then I was able to compete really well at clay court nationals and had a really good summer going into my senior year. And I felt like that really propelled me, and it was chasing those national events. And when I started to do that in the 16s and 18s, I started to improve a lot and have a lot more success. And so I would say from even a younger age, just go chase those events and go chase those really good players, because that's how you improve the most. And when you lose to somebody who's better than you at a young age, like that shows you what you need to work on. And even now, like when you lose, like that, it gives you a blueprint of what needs to be improved. And so I would just say, keep going after it and don't stop until obviously just don't stop and don't ever be satisfied.
Yeah, yeah. And you used the word complacent. Do you feel you were like complacent when you were younger? And if yes, was that because of, for example, lack of opportunities, of lack of knowledge, like not knowing, I have to go there and play those, or how did you experience that?
Yeah, I definitely felt I was a big fish in a small pond, especially in Oregon, with not a lot of tournaments happening around that were at very high level. So I would, I'd go, a month and win 2 or 3 tournaments, and they weren't big tournaments, but they were tournaments, and it just kind of like boosted my confidence. But it, you know, when you have those type of weekends all the time, you don't think like, oh, there's another level that I should be playing at. And so when I was younger, maybe in the 12s, I felt like 12s and 14s, I was having local success, but I wasn't really competing at that national level. And then once I finally did that, I recognized that there's levels to this thing, and that there's, at a national standpoint, I wasn't anywhere near where I wanted to be. And so, I would say that I was complacent when I was younger, and I was happy with the success that I had had, but I did, because I didn't really know about the opportunities.
Mm,
And once I learned about those opportunities, then I was like, well, we got to keep going, because, if you want to take this where you want to go, then you got to keep pushing it.
yeah, you were not there yet. All right, Avi, thank you very much for your time. I love your experience as well. Um, it has been a good journey, and from what I can see, you're a person that sets like stages and move up and move up and move up. So probably you don't know, and I don't know where is the next jump, but it's gonna be a next jump for you for sure. With that, development and that insight you had so far, very interesting. So keep on going, keep pushing, and don't be complacent. And things are gonna turn out well. Thank you so much, Avi, and I will see you. I will see you tomorrow for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Avi. Bye bye.
Bye.